All right. Welcome to Uppsala podcast. Three gothar that got bored and thought the world should listen to us. So today we're going to be discussing what we use to either self-identify or support ourselves in our beliefs, our callings, whatever else. Whether it's Nordic tattoos, Nordic jewelry, a little bit more closer to the line of like spiritual trinkets, tokens, things like that. Even from the music we listen to, the shows we watch, down to how we dress, look, feel, everything with it. So that's what we're kind of discussing, is like how we represent ourselves and how society sees that representation, essentially. So I am White Wolf. I don't know, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. We had Rain Raven and Sigrid Ufara as well. Kind of all walks of life between the three of us to a certain degree. So it's kind of a good little jumping off point to seeing what the different styles are for all three of us, because I feel like we actually all do have very different styles, despite us being all Gothar of the same faith and community. So very cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That was all. We're all different, but very similar all at the same time.
You nailed it. I'm so proud of you right now.
I'm so
proud.
What I
do. That's because I haven't been drinking much and I decided not to smoke before the call. So you're welcome.
Thank you for not being intoxicated to the fullest extent during work.
The least amount of effort put into it.
Anyways,
we're doing the bare minimum and showing up.
I have zero energy, I'm gonna be honest. It's been a tough day at work.
It's been interesting this week.
Yeah.
My day's been very chaotic, but like productive. Like it's one of the days that I really enjoy because it's all operations based, and I love just nailing it on the head. So it kind of like builds my hype up, and then I got nothing to do. So here we are.
Yeah, I had to actually search things today, and I was very disappointed by it.
Search what?
Cargo.
Oh, yeah. Your job.
Yeah, my horrible job that I hate.
Dude, you were so excited for that job too.
Yeah, so that's where me and my wife, we both agree, and I live by Odin. At that point, I'm never satisfied with what I'm doing. I'm just excited for the next opportunity. So it's my horrible. I mean, it's like my handicap is I'm always bored. So I always look forward to the next thing, working on the next task. And then once I get that done, then I'm like, all right, what's next? I'm never satisfied with just being stagnant.
Honestly, that's how I am. That's why today, and like days like this for me, like I didn't just do one thing. I'm helping write policies and procedures for it's a multi-billion-dollar company now in multiple states. And it's not even like in my job description. Like they just like queued me up for the last like week or so. And so outside of my normal job description, I'm doing tons of shit that like keeps me moving and like keeps moving up, which makes me like excited. Yeah. But if it's just a regular operations day, I'm like, hey, what if kill me? What if that? Like, I have a partner of mine that came up to me and I was doing my job and he goes, so what are you, like a pagan? And I just like, well, I don't know what you want from me right now, man. I'm at work. And I was like, yeah, very much so. And he's like, yeah, I've been looking into that. Do you have any recommendations for books? I'm like, don't talk to me today. I will come back with a list tomorrow, but no more conversation what we had today. I was just like, bro, you're in so deep already. Like, it was cool. So he's a squirrely little bugger. So
you know my government name. Well, now you're gonna know my pagan name.
That's legit kind of what it went to. I'm like, listen, when you're ready, you'll be ready.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world.
It blew his mind. It was good stuff. But so it's fascinating. I'm seeing a lot of and really like Boy Scout cut, that kind of build. Yeah. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, here we go. Like, so I'm seeing a lot more pop up. That's kind of cool.
I mean, that's always a positive.
Oh goodness, yeah. So that kind of stuff still happens to me to this day, being military and having the beard. People just walk up and be like, so are you Muslim or pagan? And I'm like, shut the
I feel like I'm Amish. Like,
I showed up here to work on computers now.
I see the, and I'm not being stereotypical, but I am all at the same time. Your skin color kind of gives the Muslim vibes.
he looks less dark in person.
Are you talking about me?
Yes, you.
Do you think he's talking about me? I'm reflecting light.
I'm albino.
Like, bro.
Wow, that's where that went. No, I'm white.
It
Nah.
might be the room not very well lit. He looks like us.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a little bit. It's been a little bit. You're also like you're not albino.
He's not as good looking as us, but he's roughly the same skin tone.
Calm down, garden gnome.
Maybe it is the camera, and it has been a little bit since I've seen you.
This is like the Walmart brand webcam that I'm still working with right now, so I'm not surprised.
The camera adds 3 shades. It's fine.
I mean, I have an actual studio camera, and then I have a ring light, so you can see that I'm white. I mean,
yeah, we get it. You're rich, okay?
I'm not rich. I just have a hobby that I spend money on.
It takes 0 modification to see that I am this white.
My hobby is like 3D printers and shit like that. So my technology is in a different place.
Yeah.
I just bought some weed and some Studio Ghibli art. That's
So I was thinking, I'm thinking for Midsummer, I have to see if I can borrow my brother's mic so we can all have like a mic in front of us instead of it being like having one in the middle, because how I have it set up, it's very, you gotta have the mic in your face. You gotta mouth it.
I mean, frankly, it's probably best to have one so we don't all just keep not shutting the fuck up and having like the share stick. Okay, now you talk.
We do the talking stick. No, so when we talk about like what symbols represent paganism, there's big ones like Mjolnir or the necklace with the hammer on it, which I'm not even wearing mine right now. Neither is White Wolf. So there's that symbol, which is one of the key indicators. But it's one of those symbols that people have picked up more recently as like a fashion statement as well.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, I do Marvel, and you'll have like the Marvel Thor's hammer on it, which is cool. I get sweet. I'm good with it. I don't care. But there's other little things like when people have runic charms as necklaces. Those are always interesting to me. I've seen that one before, and we'll get into that. Don't get me wrong. We're gonna get into the runes and our cautionary tales, I'm sure, of what happens when you flippantly use runes in a fashion statement or get them tattooed or stuff like that. Which, in all reality, do what you're gonna do. We can't control anybody, but yeah, we'll get into that too. But the biggest one that everybody sees is that Thor's hammer necklace, which is awesome. I'm glad it's becoming more common. I'm glad people are noticing it. I've been approached in like grocery stores and out on the street over the pendant that I wear. Because it's not necessarily one of the flashy ones. It's actually a wrought iron pendant that was locally forged by a guy up here in Utah. And he's great. I love him to death. He's freaking awesome.
Are you talking about Ragnar's Forge? Are you talking about
Ragnar's Forge up in Eden? Yeah, that place is great, and he's super cool, super chill guy. Got to talk to him for a minute, and he just forges hammers at random sometimes. He was like, yeah, I got these pieces of wrought iron, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do with these? I'm going to hammer it out into Norse hammer. And I was like, sweet.
Ren Raven, we will be going there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's my plan is, because I got this one back on Amazon when I first started, like 5 years ago. Yeah. And I want to retire it to my altar / when I do hollowing for sacred spaces, use that as my hammer.
Okay.
And then just have like the crafted one be my everyday one.
Yeah, Ragnar's Forge, amazing guy, one of the last true blacksmiths in the state, in most of the country. He runs the oldest forge one of the oldest forges west of the Mississippi, and for sure the oldest one in Utah. They were going to destroy it way back in the day, and they made it into a historic monument or historical site or whatever else. And he took it upon himself to do that. Like he has a Thor style Mjolnir, mind you, but he has weighed that sucker down. Like he's like, yeah, lift it. I freaking dare you to try. So I do every time I'm about to throw my back out. But really good guy. It's a really good shop. I want to say his name is Jesse, but I can double check that. But I don't remember. Really good guy. But you can walk in there. He has stuff already forged, obviously, like little things, whatever. His bookends. He does big stuff like furniture, things like that. Like, he does big shit. But if you go in there with like anything metal, you don't have to bring anything. He'll just have something, and you can watch him smelt, forge, and do it right on the spot. It's super cool, and it makes it much more of an experience with your own Mjolnir that you got from scratch, essentially, or whatever else. So the materials have always been really good. Those are the ones I usually like give away, but only to like certain times. But they're awesome. We'll go there for sure.
This podcast is now sponsored by Ragnar Forge.
Listen, if I could, I would. He does like Comic Cons, anime cons, all that stuff, and he eats it up. He goes to like the San Diego stuff because he's like, oh yeah, people are gonna buy the crap out of this Mjolnir.
Oh yeah,
so,
I mean, especially Comic Con.
I'll blast him right here, right now. If you're ever in Utah and you're a heathen, go check out Ragnar's Forge in Eden, Utah. It's up by Ogden and just out on the other side of Ogden Canyon from Ogden City. Place is great, man.
It's super cool.
I mentioned the beautiful drive out there in and of itself is worth the drive. So
make sure you mention the New Uppsala pod or use code New Uppsala at checkout.
I will make that happen. Oh, I can make it work. And we will talk to him at Midsummer. It will work. I can tell you right now. He's ready for my Midsummer purchases every year. He's like, he's like, all right, so like 50 Mjolnirs. I'm like, let's go. But again, to stick with Ufar's point, the Mjolnir, whether it be usually as a necklace, is one of the very, very many more common expressions of self in heathenry. I do carry a Mjolnir on me at all times. It happens to be a ring. It's why I've kind of not, and it's nothing spectacular. Definitely online purchase. Actually, I think I got this in one of the storefronts, but it's very easily found online too. I try to buy as much local as I can, as buy local. But really, like I try to, because a lot of businesses around my area, the pagan community businesses, are actually going out of business because of their landlords. And they're being forced to do like Etsy or an online page, which they despise, which I appreciate. So I do try and find, like if I go anywhere, I try and find local first just to dig into it and find. So a lot of my stuff comes from very local shops, whether it's here or overseas or whatever else. But Mjolnir is definitely the calling card per se of the heathen. I mean, the U.S. government's approved that on a headstone, where if you're a heathen, it's the sign of a Mjolnir, and not Thor's Mjolnir, which is good.
I think that's still an option. Genuinely, I'm pretty sure it is. For
the headstone.
Yeah, on the headstone. I think I
thought it was just like this one.
Yeah, it is like that one.
Option too. I thought there was another option still, but maybe not. Maybe that went away.
No, I've never seen like a Marvel Thor hammer sigil or design.
It's like government used.
Yeah, it was authorized, I want to say back in like 05 or something like that. Maybe 05 to 010 or 10.
I was thinking like 7, but yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I want to say it was by the VA. Another one that I see commonly is a Gungnir necklace or an oath ring.
Yeah. The oath ring is a huge one that can be an indicator.
And they're commonly referred to as torques. There's times that's like the bracelet that's 3/4 around your wrist. You use an open end or whatever else. Sometimes it goes wrist. Sometimes people use it as an arm. Whatever else. I just try to differentiate that because sometimes oath rings are a little bit different than torques. Same concept. The not full ring. Well, oath rings are full. So torques usually are not, and they have that disconnect. So, but yeah, it's a very common one. And those are kind of cool because you see a lot more customizable stuff. Same with the Mjolnirs. As fashion and pop culture has got into it, honestly, it hasn't been bad for us because we now get more creative, cool things. I have some that have raven heads, dragon heads, wolf heads, all these little torques. They're really cool.
Yeah.
Most of the ones I get are very, very inexpensive, like pewter, and so after a while they snap. But it's the name of the game with pewter.
Mm-hmm. No, my first one that I had ended up retiring to my altar because it nearly snapped, and it was what I had it for 2 years, and then it started like cutting up my skin and everything, and then ended up getting my oath ring tattooed on.
Nice. Yeah, most of my first one ever, I ended up splitting in half and making oath rings, like full oath rings for a few Gothar, and using the two ends of it of Hugin and Munin onto both rings. So it was like with the ravens wrapped around it. And I had made the oath rings through like wires and myself and pieces from saddles and stuff like that. But that was really cool. So sometimes when one retires, it's not by any means fully done. It's just becoming something different at the time. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I actually got the first oath ring that I've ever had when I took my Gothi oath, which was fun. White Wolf handed me that one when I took that oath, which was super cool. Still wear it, still use it. Taking oaths of other people on it during different ceremonies, especially wedding rituals. I actually used my oath ring as part of a wedding ceremony not too long ago. So that's another symbol that is there. I mean, we can get into tattoos. I'm pretty sure we all have Norse pagan tattoos somewhere on our body at this point. That's another indicator for it. And a lot of the time it's Viking style arm or knotwork or Celtic knotwork that tells a story is oftentimes the way it does it. Which is another solid indicator, but there's so many different styles now. It could be a tattoo realism raven that somebody goes, oh yeah, this represents this, and it's tattoos. Everybody's got crazy fucking tattoos. So it's an indicator in some ways, but the biggest one that I've seen is Thor's hammer on like the back of somebody's hand. That was a solid like, okay, which is just a combination of two different ones. I've seen there's an employee at a local Home Depot that I live next to that has like runic writing all over his orange apron in Home Depot, and I was like, holy shit. And I like walked up to him and I was like, so what's all that mean? And he was like, shut up. And I was like, oh, why? And he goes, because you're wearing a hammer. Don't be fucking stupid. And he like came at me. I was like, my bad, bro. I was just seeing if you knew your shit. And he was like, would I have written this? Like, he had an attitude. It was fine. He was a good dude. We ended up...
So like you tried to out him and he put you on blast. Like, fuck you.
You know what it means? And I was like, okay, calm down, bud.
Yeah, there's this guy at work that on his lunch pail he wrote his name in runic, Elder Futhark. And there was one day he was like, so I see you have a hammer and then I see your tattoos. Are you Norse pagan? And I'm like, yes. What threw it away? My beard, my hairstyle, my tattoos, or my patches on my backpack.
Which one of the 7 things that I have on me at all times threw this for you? Which one?
Yeah, honestly.
It's always fun I do it a lot. I identify people's tattoos. Like I see a guy with the Vegvisir, right?
The
compass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people obviously this starts a debate of like the compass wasn't used then, it's not a traditional one, like whatever. But he was wearing that as well as like the helm of awe, like on 2 different casts, right? He just walked around and I'm like, I see you're wearing Vegvisir and the helm of awe, and he's like, no one knows what the fuck this is called. You clearly do this. I'm like, I did that. And so it was good though. So there's a lot of debate on a lot of this stuff, and like the origins of all of it. I mean, you can't even trace it. You can, but you can't. Like, calm down. And if it's something that helps someone guide someone in the right direction, who are you to say it's not authentic? Same thing with anything else that happens nowadays, languages, whatever else. I mean, you could say, the Elder Futhark's the true Futhark, and then they're like, no, the Germanic New Age Futhark is. You're like, well, ultimately, someone one day fucking said this way is the way of this. So it's not up to you to dictate what is something that binds them to their faith, their calling, or their path. So
Come on, man. It's always Angel Saxon Futhark.
The angel.
Yeah, Angel Saxon. Angel, not Angelo, or however you say it's Angel Saxon. This new age. It came literally up yesterday. Get onto the news.
I will. Never mind. Anyways, what I'm gonna say is when it comes to like the Vegvaseer, which I actually have tattooed on my chest, so I don't give a crap about what people say, whether it was used or not used, and blah blah blah. Who the fuck cares? Because the point of it is, and I harp on this all the time in our school when I'm teaching people, when I go through things. Magic is magic no matter where it comes from. I don't care if it existed 3,000 years before the runes were discovered or first written down or whatever. I don't care if it's 3,000 years after that. If somebody finds a way to produce results in an energy manipulation or magic sense, it's magic. It works. They've proven it. It had a purpose. It was used for that purpose. Get out. I don't care. Because if we're going to go down that route, and I'm going to get some hate for this, 100%, but Norse pagans should not use white sage if that's the case.
If anything, it should be mugwort.
Yep.
I love white sage.
I do too. I use it all the time. But if you're going to take this whole, like, this symbol existed, that didn't exist back then, blah, 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 get the fuck out. Then stop saging your house.
No, honestly. I mean, I have
no concept of sage being used. They would use mugwort, they would use other herbs and stuff like that, but they would never have used white sage.
I want to say,
party.
yeah, I want to say white sage is only commonly grown in the U.S.
Now, when Leif Erikson and his adventuring party and Viking and all that stuff, and they came over here to North America, sure, they may have encountered a Native American tribe that used it. And 100% they could have been like, oh, we use this. And they went, oh, we use this. And then it crossed lines. Sure. But if you're going to take magic in the same sense, they never would have used it. So quit saging your house and go buy a fuck ton of mugwort and use that.
Yeah, if you want to be like authentic and, you know, go where the ancestors first started, mugwort would be it. But, you know, by Sigvar's point of, you know, when Leif Erikson first came over, the first person that ever came to the United States from a European country, and I want to say they landed up by like Minnesota,
Newfoundland.
Yeah, it was actually Canada. Modern day Canada is where they first landed, and then they migrated down into Michigan and Minnesota and those.
But anyways, like, you know, they met tribes and, you know, they could have exchanged goods and all that. And I mean, there's the whole thing of crossbreeding and, you know, all Norse pagans weren't only white Europeans, you know, some were Native Americans, Middle Easterners. Oh my gosh, I like broke the third wall and I pissed so many people off.
You don't be racist.
It's Odin the Allfather, not the Sunfather.
Oldest heathen in the world right now by saying they weren't all white.
Well,
just so
well, you know, I'm an Oathsworn Gothi to defend everyone, so come at me, bro.
No, I agree. Like, if I don't like when people debate origins I mean, not necessarily timelines, whatever else. Like, a good 90% of the heathen population still think apples grew overseas. So fucking whatever. Like, what are you gonna do? So outside of that, we try and look at other, you know, because apple is used in our lore a lot. But frankly, we're talking about different subjects. So let's say if we can identify like 3 different things we use ourselves to not necessarily identify, it's not like we're trying to out ourselves as these things, but something that we have, wear, do, or have the trait of, or listen to that makes us feel a little bit more I guess, connected to our culture, our people, our gods, goddesses, all that stuff. So, Sigmund, what about you? If you can name three, and we'll just do three for now, if there's a lot more.
I was like trying to boil it down to three.
And I'm saying three, like everyday is like surefire things that you're like this, like it's a like knee jerk reaction or a habit to do.
So, fuck. Dude, this is not a fair question to ask a gothic. We wear and use all sorts of shit to indicate things from random different places. I would say the hammer is number one. Sorry if I stole everybody else's answer. That is the number one way that you can recognize it. Certain tattoos, like I have Gungnir tattooed on my forearm. And I would have to say, White Wolf is a perfect example of what I mean, but rings. I wear a fuck ton of rings normally when I leave the house. So jewelry is one. Jewelry is a big one, and tattoos. So Thor's hammer, my rings and arm ring and all that stuff, and certain tattoos.
So I'm assuming you don't want us to just say the same things, like try to go different things, because Sigvardur literally stole like the best ones.
All of them.
Yeah,
I really don't mind. If it's a common expression, that's a common expression. It's what the norm is, honestly. So it doesn't bother me.
So
we can say the same things. Why not?
Mine, obviously, would be my tattoos, because I have one on my wrist that's I always wear either a short sleeve or I have my sleeves rolled up. So my wrist tattoo's always visible, and I have the beard struggle like wristbands on that I got when buying my beard care. Another one that helps me with my, it helps my practice, which is not necessarily needed for everyone's practice, but it's my beard. It builds my practice. It's not something I desperately need. Like, I could go off and shave if I wanted to, but I don't want to because it builds my practice and I feel more like a man. And that's my spiritual sense. The next one would be, honestly, it would have to be my hair, like my long hair. Because people are like, because I grow out my top and then I cut down on my sides. People say that nowadays the Viking haircut. For me, it's the warrior's braid. That's how I see it as, even though I'm not a warrior anymore. It's just my version of self-expression.
Nice. And a lot of times that was called like I want to say it's the wolf tail or something like that too. I did that for a long time where I just had like a short, like faux hawk essentially, and then shaved sides all the way down, things like that. So that's cool. Nice. Mine are similar. I'll try and hit obviously the same nuances, but my three is obviously my rings. I can have like 30 with just the rings, but they're all Norse Pagan, right? They're not all that theme. I have Odin. I have one of my favorite rings is my only one that fits on my pinky, but it's a face of Odin with one eye missing. It has human meat on the sides and Gideon and Feki on it, and there's no way it's going to turn out clear, but it actually is like to the point where if you examine it, it's enough detail you can tell. Pure silver, love it. My rings are a big part of me. I have tons and tons of them outside of these. I can only just wear so many because I only have so many fingers. And I actually don't know my ring size on any of my fingers. Like, I go into a building and I just go, it's that one, cool. And I move on with my life. I've got like 3 that I could probably give to Rain Raven because they don't even fit my damn thumb. But I love them. But I'm like, that's never going to happen. I do have tattoos. My first, I guess, heathen pagan, whatever tattoo was like what I would refer to as like the horns of Odin or the drinking horns of Odin or whatever else. It's 3 horns kind of intersected. A lot of that comes down to the 3 triangles or whatever else of it, which is a very common depiction towards Odin. I have Sigurd the Dragon Slayer slaying Fafnir. I got other tattoos. I lost a bet and got runic tattoos down my spine from another gothy. Whatever, it is what it is. I'm not a big advocate for runic tattoos, but when you lose a bet, you lose a bet. Outside of that, my hair is becoming more and more that. It might just because I'm losing it, so I'm freaking out about it, or it's the fact that I actually enjoy that. But again, I used to have short hair on the sides, long hair in the center, same kind of concept. My beard, I don't know if that's necessarily something that has to do with my practices. It doesn't hurt, but it's not necessarily a focal point. I've just been told if I shave it that I'll be single forever. So I just can't do that. Other than that, honestly, in public, there's not a whole lot that I kind of have on most of my hats. Most of my hats, I have pins, and some have Mjolnirs on them. Some have things from the pagan culture, things like that. Obviously, I listen to tons of music. I listen to everything, though, from like opera, Eminem, to Heilung, and whatever I want to listen to at the same time. But inside my house, I have my altar, which is increasingly my pride and joy because I have a lot of dead shit on it, and I love it.
What are you're just talking about your house, right?
Yeah, just what?
Your house? Your altar house?
Yeah, so I used to actually, back about 2-3 years ago, my beard is a little bit longer than it is now, and I would weave bones into them. That was super fun. I would usually do that on occasion. I don't dress as like Nordic as I can. When I do rituals, things like that, I have like a wolf tooth, full teeth necklace. I wear a lot of more identifying markers, including my Mjolnir. I don't wear my Mjolnir very often. I have it on my hand. I don't feel I need to have multiple representations of certain things. But mine would probably be my rings / my jewelry, my tattoos. Shit, I don't even know on the third. There's a lot of it, but
yeah, I mean, we kind of like all hit something that was, music. Another example is our hobbies, meaning like, we're, if not most pagans in general, love history to an extent where they try to know more about their culture because it's so quote unquote taboo. It's not well known. So when people are just making conversation, they're like, oh yeah, do you know this happened in Europe at 960 BC or something like that? And yeah, like history is another good one.
I thought like a lot of my verbiage and my spoken language is a lot of times, and it's not like constant, it's just nuances, little plugs I do. If I get really upset or surprised, I literally will be like, Odin's beard, that's fucking crazy. And everyone around me is like, did you just, what? Or like I'll say gods, of course, instead of God, which took a lot of training to do just in the pneumatic kind of like knee jerk of like, god damn it. I'd be like, God damn you. And it's like, well, that's way more intense. Like, so the verbiage I use, I really do try and like get away from it because, I don't want to be like, saying, oh, Jesus Christ, blah, 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 even though it's like a knee-jerk reaction to a situation. It has nothing to do with a faith, a religion, whatever else. It's just like the common tongue norm to say. I try and incorporate a little bit more into it, and I'm getting increasingly better at it, but it's something I've been trying to do is just not an everyday thing, but like surprised verbiage, things like that. So it kind of helps me keep track of like, don't say, oh my God, say it with an S.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I'm currently working through it as well. I've gotten better with adding the S, but the Jesus Christ one's the hardest for me to get rid of. And I'm like, it's oh my gosh, Jesus Christ. Like, it's just my habit, and it's, if anything, it's like it's your modern day slang. It's your everyday words. It's breaking a part of your habit, actually. Like, if you have ever tried to break a habit, it's increasingly hard to do. It's easy to do 1 day, 2 days, but then you try to go like a couple weeks and you just find yourself going back to the norm because it's comfortable.
You know what? Okay, I just had a crazy fucking, it made me chuckle to myself. But instead of saying Jesus Christ from now on, I'm going to say Baldur's nipples. just to see what people say. See, and that is the exact reaction I want from people. Is
Stop saying words. What did you just say?
Oh my
Instead of saying,
goodness, Baldur's nipples.
"Oh my God, it's Baldur's nipples," bullshit. Fucking what? Everybody, nobody.
They're like, whom learns utters? What is happening? You're like, I don't know what's happening now. Like, that's a whole different page.
No one would know what the fuck you were talking about except for heathen.
Yeah.
And
We're
I
gonna have to come up with like random shit to just blast at midsummer to see if anybody catches it.
or his toenails. It's just like, what the fuck?
We gotta trim them bitches. Don't want to contribute to that boat.
Dirty ass Naglfar. No, it's like, you know, when I went to the Midwest, when I was in the military, I picked up y'all, and I haven't dropped y'all ever since. And my wife was like, "You're not from the Midwest or from the South." And I'm like, it's just the culture that I'm a part of. So I picked up y'all. Like, to this day, I still text it and I say, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" And it's just a part of my...
I yell like it's my job. Like, that's...
I mean, it is.
Professional communication, whatever else. And I'm from Utah. I don't know if that's not Midwest, but like it's...
I mean, but your job.
From in farming.
But your job.
Yeah.
No.
So
Because it's not just his job. It's a Utah thing, okay? Utah is this weird conglomerate clusterfuck of random people. And
it doesn't say their keys.
No. It's not a mountain. It's a mountain.
It's a mountain. You go hunting in your mountains, so calm the fuck down.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, you don't go hunting, you go hunting.
If you go hunting, you're from California.
And then you go fishing, you go cowboying, you go lassoing. Everything is an IN at the end.
Oh, you're just saying we don't say our G's. We don't say a lot of things, but T's is a big one for you. If it's not like
one of my favorite things I've ever said is, I'm military. I deal with a lot of different people from a lot of different places in the U.S. And there was somebody that was like, he said, "Y'all." He goes, "Where y'all go hunting at?" And I was like, "Oh, up on the mountains over by the creek, about a mile down." And he was like, "What the f-? Like, he stopped dead in his tracks. He goes, "Where the hell are you from?" I'm like, "Here. I'm from here. This has always been home." And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Yeah."
Were you just making fun of me? No, it's just how I talk.
Utah's a weird place, okay?
Mine was in Georgia. I got outed as a Utah in Georgia because I was so first of all, in the military, I was the only white guy in my fucking unit. All right. And so we're drawing out maps, right? And I'm doing my map thing, love drawing maps, it's my job. I'm like, all right, so the mountain's over here. And one guy goes, "Mountain? And he goes, "What do you say?" I'm like, "The mountains. They're right here. The mountain ridge is right here." And he's like, "Say it again." I'm like, "The fucking mountain ridge. What do you want from me right now?" He's like, "Are you saying mountain?" And like mountain, and he goes, "Let me ask you a question." I'm like, "Don't you ever talk to me again. First of all, Georgia, don't ask me shit if I'm saying mountain." He said that. I'm like, "No, I'm out."
Y'all can go fuck off over yonder.
Yeah. No, so when I went to, well, it was when I went to Korea and Missouri, you know, I'm from Oregon, born and raised. I slur some of my words and then I enunciate other words. And so I sound like I'm from the West or from the South, Midwest, and then I'm also from like Minnesota.
That is very similar to the Pacific Northwest. Yeah.
Si, senor.
The people say shit, I'm like, "What are you?"
Yeah, it's like, where are you from? And I'm like, "Well, I'm from here." You know, I slur some words and then I enunciate on others, and you know, that's how it is. How do you do?
My wife's dad's family is from Minnesota. I give them so much shit all the time for the way they talk, because they came over when we were getting married and all sorts of stuff, and we've seen them since. Their accent just irks me in a certain way. So I lay into it. And I don't know if anybody watches TikToks, but there was a guy on there that made fun of Star Wars with a Minnesota accent. and he would say stuff like "Darth" and shit like that. So her grandma, I swear to the gods, to this day, her grandmother sounds exactly like that. And it is the funniest fucking thing. So I started sending those TikToks to her, and she would send them to her dad, and she told him, yeah, this is what Mark thinks our family sounds like. I'm like, it's what they sound like.
Funny.
It's accurate.
Well, something that I made, or someone told me, it was from like Minnesota and all that area, it's not a casserole, it's a hot dish.
The fuck does that?
Listen, I've had tater tot casserole. I don't know if it was called. Oh, it's tater tot hot dish.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
wrong.
tater tot hot dish.
I've never had that before until recently. And they're like, "You want to make a tater tot hot dish?" And I was like, "Did you just ask to order me like Wendy's tater tots or some shit? Like, what are you doing right now?" And they made it, and I was like, "This is the most bomb shit I've ever fucking had."
Wait, you've never had a casserole?
It's called tater tot casserole.
Well, up there, it's called hot dish instead of casserole. I don't know what the reasoning behind it. It was like because you don't casserole. It's literally a hot dish.
It when that's a hot dish.
Yeah.
It's hot on the bottom.
I've seen that one. That's funny as shit.
So now we talked about dialects and regional discrepancies or differences between
dialects, regional accents. That it does come into self-representation of culture and dynamics. Like I said, verbiage plays a part. You can tell some people Swedish, whatever. Tell me a Gothi that's from Iceland has the accent, comes in, starts talking in English, and you're like, I'm going to listen to you more than Hank from Kentucky merely because of your accent. And they can both be Gothi. Like,
oh yeah,
but it gives credibility when you have certain things, and to a certain degree, like your beard, whatever else. When you have certain things, it does build the credibility in a very apparent but subconscious level as well. When you see someone walk in full garb, draped in fur and pelts, you're like, this motherfucker, though. But it could not. He might not know anything. He got at a mountain man rendezvous and just wears pelts. But it gives credibility. Like, it's passive credibility, but it is.
Which is absolutely insane. And I get what you're saying, because in the school, I harp on pronunciation of certain things. And when people pronounce things wrong, it fucking sends me into a fit. And I'm probably pronouncing them wrong, but I try to do my research as best as I can who pronounced them correctly. And I try and focus on that and learn the language at least a little bit so that my pronunciation is horrible.
What do you think out of that we've dealt with so far, and I can't think one off the top of my head, it's going to take some thinking, is one of the most, in our opinion, because we might be wrong, is the most commonly, what would you say, like mispronounced word that we deal with in like the heathen community?
Okay, here's mine, and you said it earlier. Abdumbla.
Aruba? Oh, okay. That's okay.
The cosmic space cow. People are always like, I did a bit Adumla, and I'm like, nope. Right again. Abdumbla. There's a B in there.
Okay, I see that. That makes sense.
That one and a lot.
That doesn't come up a lot with me, but I get to see that's very much a struggle.
Yeah. And the runes as a whole. And that is an entirely debatable topic. I will give everyone their leeway on that. People can debate those, and I get it. But there are some times where it's just wrong.
It just feels wrong.
This is stemming from a conversation that we had not too long ago in a class setting where not one of our students, thank all of the gods and goddesses, couldn't pronounce, what was it? Freyr. Like, it was the most barbaric tragedy to hear him be like, Fraser, or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, we're there now.
Yeah.
Frasier, like the sitcom.
It
And I
was
like, stop.
it was your the clan that you help study session.
Oh, I know what it was. I just didn't want to out it, but like
Oh my god.
that was rough. That was rough.
To be fair, I know this individual. I know exactly what we're talking about. I love him to death.
We don't want to say
horribly. And sometimes it's intentional, and I know it's intentional, but sometimes I think he's just that dyslexic that he fucks it.
And it's fine if it just mixes it. He's adding shit into it, like silent G's or something. Like, I don't know, but they weren't silent to him. Like X's and O's. And I'm like, I don't know if you're trying to solve a word puzzle on Jeopardy or if you're trying to talk about the story we just read, but stop it. We're not playing Hangman, we're talking about the gods.
Like what irks me is when they're like, yeah, I don't know how to say this, and then they attempt, and then I'm like, for example, Freyr or Frey, I go by Freyr. That's just me. That's my relationship with him. And I'm like, oh, so it's in this connotation, it's Freyr or Frey. And then the individual still gets it wrong.
Frigg? I'll kill you.
Yeah, the male Vanir god Frigg, right? Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh honey.
I do the same thing when I do spelling, though. I'm a little more critical of spelling. Like when I spell something, when I spell Heimdall, there's an R at the end of it. Yeah, it's not the common, whatever else, but there's like little nuances like that. I'm really trying to think.
By Baldur's Udders.
Baldur doesn't have udders. He has nipples. Dumbla has udders.
No, that's what I'm just saying.
From udders, they must
I'm just
from
seeing
nipples.
I'm seeing if you're staying up in the conversation.
Me?
Well, the listeners, whatever.
Oh.
We're taking taps. Red Raven, have you come across something, whether recently or in the past, that is a mispronunciation you come across a lot of the times?
Mine would have to be.
I'm still trying to kill time until I think of one, so please slow down when you answer.
Yeah. I don't think it's mispronunciation, other than they're just not knowledgeable, because it was when I was in Korea, there's this new baby heathen. And when I say baby, I'm like a dot. And he's like, yeah, hella. I'm like, oh, so you just watched Ragnarok, right? And he's like, yeah, I watched it last night. Norse paganism's cool. It's Hela, Thor's sister. Oh, honey.
Is it hella cool?
Oh.
Bless your heart.
I'm about to break your fucking skull in.
I remembered what the word was that one of our students, love him to death, great guy, he was mispronouncing Anzus.
Yes, ass news. Ass
and
news.
I wanted to go so hard. And I hope he watches this, and I hope he takes it in jest, and I'm totally good with it. We knew what he was talking about. We knew where he was going, and I didn't want to interrupt him because he was running on his train of thought, and he was doing great.
Yeah.
So,
man, I don't think it's just learn from your mistakes, first of all. I hope you do this and you learn.
I mean, he said he listened, so, hey, individual, it's pronounced ass news instead of ass news.
An ass snooze is when
snooze.
you're all posted up on the couch and you lay your head on your ass. That's an ass snooze.
Snooze is where you go to find spicy videos on the internet.
No, that's ass news is when you get done eating Taco Bell.
That's
That's an ass snooze.
That's an ass breaking news. This just in, everything out.
So, and we don't mean to pick on our students directly, because we hear it from everybody around everywhere. Whenever we talk to anybody, people pronounce things wrong, and I probably pronounce some things wrong. But it's learning from those things and going, oh yeah, no, that makes more sense. That's the key to that. But yeah, I agree. Getting back onto our topic of symbols and things that we do to outwardly say, yeah, we're pagan. Our verbiage is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
proper pronunciation is a dead giveaway that you've done your research at the very least to a degree of understanding. You don't might not understand it, but like you know the verbiage.
Oh, I know another one that just came, to the top of my head. It's at the end of like a prayer and everything, or a bloat or whatever it is. Skull.
Cool.
Which
Yeah, that's
it
another
has
one.
its time and place.
Yes, it does.
He is
In
not
that,
at the bar with a fucking shot glass in your hand.
but if it's to replace the word cheers, I see that being correct instead of yo brother skull.
No,
Then
no,
that's
it's a greeting.
yeah.
Okay.
I cannot count the number of times where me and White Wolf have been in a bar and I've heard somebody say that shit, and me and White Wolf have just like turned in bar stools and just stared at them until they corrected themselves.
If you
Or
didn't
like-
just hail the gods or defeat a foe, I don't want to hear it out of your mouth.
So what
At
are
a
you
bar.
cheering about?
What?
I said that would have been my response. So what are you cheering about?
What are you cheering about? Like drinking? Like no, that just says drink. Just say drink.
So you're acknowledging you have a drinking problem? That's a cheers right there.
It's just pretty sure it's just drakkar or drink. So just use that.
No, okay, is that what it is? Dreka?
Nah, I can't.
Drinking is German. I believe draka is. I've been really bad about my Icelandic studies on verbiage.
I pulled up the old Norse version of it and it's Dreka. Drekka. Something for whatever. Dreka.
Yeah. So I used to be way better than somebody get better on.
Draka.
One drink, two drink, three draka. No. That was Count Dracula.
Uno draka, uno draka, tres draka.
Fourth draka. Wake up tomorrow. Like, oh.
What's that movie? Shanghai Nights or whatever it is?
No.
Oh, that's been a while.
Bathtubs.
Yeah. They're doing the song and they just keep drinking.
Yeah. Another thing,
one
like it would be, games, like what games you play, like, if you're, you have some friends and they could see like you recently played or something, and playing Crusader Kings, because that's like an RPG simulator type of game where you're playing as a family lineage, and you could be a Viking. Iron Bjornside's in there that I know of. It's been a little bit since I.
You mean Bjorn Ironside?
Yeah, like I said. I think I said Ironside Bjorn.
Oh,
did I say that?
No,
I don't know. I thought you said Bjorn Ironside.
I said Iron Bjornside.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't even catch that if that's what he said. I don't fully believe Sigrid right now.
Bjorn Ironside. But then you got like Vanaheim, you got, I wish I could pull my Steam, because I literally
there's a really good one that I play, and I think it's called Jotun or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a very 2D, very basic graphics type thing, but it's very accurate. They speak in Icelandic and it has the translations.
Yep.
It chases the runes down. It's a very fun one on Xbox that is a really fun game to play. It might be on Microsoft. I have no fucking clue.
it's on Steam, and I've
Sony.
I played it. I played it. It's a lot of fun. But then you got
I enjoy it.
Valheim, that survival.
There's one that I played that fucks with my head.
Valhalla, God of War, either
There's
2018 version or the new one, Ragnarok.
There's one when you're a girl and you travel through the realms, essentially going through hell, and it is
Hellblade.
Hellblade. Listen, that shit,
That's
legit.
psychotic.
If you put on like Turtle Beaches and it plays, it has warnings at the beginning about hallucinations and hearing things, and then has like a hotline for it Yo, I almost called that hotline playing that game. Like I
Yeah.
was twitching and shit, and like I took the headphones off, and like a day later, I'm like, it
Yeah.
is so good though. Like I couldn't. It's so compelling. It's so good.
I can't
So-
wait for the second one to come out.
There's another one. I'm gonna just lose my shit.
I would play it, but I have 3 kids, so
I mean, Turtle Beach or headphones, just do that.
Yeah,
So when you
but
start
there's
talking
no
about games,
time.
it's like,
There's no
Yeah.
time.
yeah, I don't have time to play
I
video
didn't
games.
know. I've got just like, all this money and things that I can just do on my own for no reason. And
Yeah,
play
but you
video
know,
games.
we're living by the Hava Mall,
In what way?
passing on our knowledge to our offspring.
I have students for that.
Yeah, but you know, they're not gonna get as close of a connection.
Okay, I'll concede, but yeah, I
Gracias,
understand.
senor.
I understand both.
But then
because
you
I
know,
don't-
bloodline and all that stuff.
What do you mean?
Bloodline.
Bloodline is a totally different thing, but that's never mentioned in the Havamal. That's in more of the sagas and
Yeah,
the line of succession. But
yeah. But I was
got
going off
really
with
hyped
just
when you started
knowledge.
saying games because I ran it back to Midsummer Games. Like I was like, yeah, like Hefetoffel and Mumbly Peg and Coob, and I'm like, oh, we're talking about video games. That makes sense. Too.
that's where I went too. So don't feel bad.
I made that too, and then even like just sitting down and you know finding a calm space like a campfire and embracing you know the solitude and the peacefulness of outside and not having to go, even though most of us go 24/7.
There is a lot of strength in solitude, so that makes sense.
No, that's interesting. I like these. There's a lot of different ways that people express their paganism, and some of it's jewelry. A lot of the more outward ones are jewelry. Other things you'll see is in verbiage. But I think, honestly, the biggest one, and it's controversial at best to say it to an extent, but the way we treat each other.
Or others, but yeah, I see that.
Yeah. The way we treat the way we treat others is this difference. And I've been asked about it before, where it was like, why are these pagans always so nice? Why are Norse pagans always so kind to each other? And I'm like, well, in all honesty, it's because if you say the wrong thing in front of the wrong person, your skull might get split.
What I was about to say is like they're nice until you give them a reason not to.
And I think that's what it is. But you'll notice a lot of the time in deeper conversations when we're out and about with people, we're kinder than most. And like I said, take this for what you will, but this is what I've noticed is to servers in a restaurant, we will be almost overly kind to a point. Pleases, thank yous, generosity. Oh, don't worry about it. I understand what you're going through. You just do your thing. Get back to me when you can. And maybe that's just my personal practice. Maybe that's just what I try and do. But I've noticed when I'm out with other heathens, that's a standard for us where we accept others as who they are and not a demanding nature. Now, I'm sure there's exceptions to this. I'm sure there's all these other things, but that's another thing that I've noticed is the way we treat others.
And we kind of talked about before is where we're from, what we do, things like that. And you know, to everybody's defense, everybody can be nice. Everyone can be nice. I mean, they are. My family is fantastic. They're all very Christian. They do their thing. But for the most part, it doesn't matter where you're from, what you're doing. A lot of the times in my most common interactions with heathens, you hear sir and ma'am like they're from the South and they've never been to the South in their fucking life. It's more of a respectful tone. It's yes, ma'am, no, sir, whatever else. To Sigmund's point, like to servers and like that, there's a lot, I feel. And there's also asshole heathens out there that are just jackass brosatru morons. But you know, it's both sides of the coin. But I see more common than not a very generous. If you ever identify me in a restaurant and you're the server, wait on me because I will over tip because I don't know how to handle money and I don't care. So I overtip like crazy. So, and it's nothing to be like, I'm gonna do this. It's just like, oh, this seems right. And they're like, that's a lot more than you should have done.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you just spent $8 on a cup of coffee and you tip $20. Thank you.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I've gotten close to tipping more than the amount. I haven't done it yet. The other day I got charged like, I don't know, it was like $20, and I gave him like $12 in tips because it was a small amount, like $20. I'm going to give you like $3. That's fucked up. And so I gave him like what I hadn't felt comfortable with, and it was, you know, more than half of it, which they didn't do much, but they're making the industry run, making me happy and being available. So I don't know why not.
Yeah, that's something that I see. It's, you know, we're kind to, and, you know, as White Wolf said, you know, there's assholes out there in every community, but, you know, there's always bad apples, but the good 95% of us are, you know, we're kind to the people that are needed to be kind, or I'm trying to word it and I'm just saying words at this point, but it's, you're kind to people until they give you a reason not to. And like, I always leave a tip, and then, you know, for a couple times when I went out to restaurants, I gave like a horrible tip because they were a horrible server, and they gave zero. They didn't do their job. They didn't give us good hospitality. And it's like, you want to be good to the people serving you, or you're the host of the house. You want to be good to the people coming to your house and everything. You want to put your best foot forward, but at the same time, you're like, come on, man, just act better. And, you know,
so yeah, just recently I, you know, interacted with a new group that I've never met before, didn't know how I was going to be treated, didn't even know how I was going to be welcomed, right? Thought, okay, I'm going to cover my bases. I want to have something to not be like, hey, I'm here now, like some unannounced jackass. So I got wine, a 6-pack, and they were all featured or themed around where they're from, what their culture is, things like that. And I'm like, I'm probably going to miss the mark on this, but to me, this is trying. This is an effort placed forward. I have given bad tips. It takes a lot for me to give a bad tip, but I've done it. I've been like, fuck you, it's like $1. And even then, I'm like, that's too much. But it takes a lot. It takes some jackass on his first or last day that doesn't care that is going to get that kind of thing. So yeah, we definitely see it forward. I don't know if it's an overcompensation on my end on seeing a lot of things that happen in the world that misrepresent my culture, my spiritual beliefs, and whatever else, and I'm paying it forward, or if it's just simply the way I was raised in my nature. But yeah, it's definitely something we show gratitude tenfold because we want that back. You know, we don't do things for the gratitude or for the respect, but we see it in turn. We're like, hell yeah, you're doing it. Let's go.
Yeah, and I guess that's the biggest piece is we will reciprocate everything. If it's bad service, it's that reciprocation of we, as pagans, from my understanding, from what I've personally seen, other people may have entirely different concepts, but I will reciprocate energy right back. If you're gonna be an ass, I'm gonna be an ass. But I'll go into that situation showing respect, and that's what I teach my kids is respect everyone until they disrespect you, and then feed it right back.
I think that's important. I think that's important because a lot of heathens, especially nowadays, think they need to show off prowess or escalate when something's wrong, and it's not. It should be equal fault. We'll get into runes a lot of the times, but to me, it's what Thurasaz is. You're a thorn bush. You don't attack, but you push as much resistance as it pushes to you. You know, that kind of a concept is like, don't waste your energy on somebody that isn't worth it. If you're putting more effort into defeating them, like, you know, I'm not saying like physical altercation, but like even an argument, if you're overthinking and overdoing them, one, you already know you've won in your mind, so who cares? Two, if they can reciprocate out of something that's intellectual, you've already won. And three, you're wasting your energy into something that could be more productive in literally anywhere else in the world. Whether it's yourself, your family, your community, the person sitting next to you also drinking, like, who cares? So I think that's a big point. Is like, yeah, when they push you, push back, but don't like hit them with a rock. Like,
Now, that brings up an interesting topic, and we're way off the topic of what this call is supposed to be, but who gives a shit?
self-defense weapons can be ways of identifying our culture.
Oh, that's another thing is, living by the Holomal, gift for a gift. That's what I was going to bring up was that's sounding like a gift for a gift, whether it's a shitty gift and you're going to get a shitty gift right back.
Yeah, there's also, if we're talking about self-defense, a lot of pagans now, not to be mistaken with rednecks, a lot of pagans will carry a blade of some kind on them. And that is directly out of the Havamal. When you go to travel, you carry a spear or a sword or whatever the translation says. That stanza is always in there. What the weapon is or what that defense strategy is changes indefinitely on what it is.
No, I really like. I'll see if I can find it in the Hollander version. I really like that passage. So keep going. Sorry.
Because I've actually brought that up, and in the military, fun fact: most military members do not carry a firearm all day, every day. For those of you that believe we do, we don't. But I brought it up one time because I work with the Chapel Corps pretty closely as a Gothi. I run around with them and help out where I can. But I brought it up to them. I was like, you know what? I wonder if there's an accommodation to make for me to be able to carry a firearm on duty just while I'm in uniform based on religious standpoint. And I brought it up to them and they're like, yeah, that's probably never going to happen. And I was like, come on, man. But I cited the Havamal and even pulled it up. And I took a copy of the Havamal that they actually had, which was super cool. They had it on their like little free shelf of books that were dope. And I pulled it up.
That's
and I
rare.
flipped through it. I'm like, look, it says it right here. This is our book. This is one of our biggest standpoints on what we believe and how we should act, and it's right here. So if one of you has a stanza, go for it. Cool. Neither of them have the fucking stanza because I
thought I found one, but it's not it.
But yeah, I pulled it up and they were like, well, you have justification and da-da-da. But yeah, fun fact, most of the military does not carry a firearm. We have security forces or NPs that do all day, every day, no matter where they are. But yeah, fun stuff. I'm just going to sit here and wait for one of them to talk.
No, and to your point, and kind of what I would, everyone should have a self-defense of some kind. I don't have any firearms in where I live, but I do have just a gaggle of blades. And it's not like, oh, I just have like an axe. Like I go axe throwing regularly. I do have these recreational things to hone my skills in these circumstances. Because the last thing you want to do is look like a jackass in a home invasion, and you're holding a hatchet. You don't know what the fuck to do with it, and then you get shot anyway because they have a fucking gun. But like, I don't have firearms in my home, but I have a lot of blades. I have my bow and arrow, which obviously are wildly impractical. I use them for hunting, but there's no way I'm getting it under my bed, out of the case, knocking it, pulling it, shooting. It's a compound. Never gonna happen. So I have a little bit faster resources to that. But regardless of what you have or do, whether you're, just kind of nerding it out with a bunch of, replica blades on your walls or whatever else, I would suggest getting at least one real one, not sword-wise, but something, and learning how to use it, not just having it. Like, you can have a gun and not have any idea how to clean it, turn a safety on or off, or whatever else. So I think a part of what our culture is honing our disciplines. Now, everybody does that to a certain degree, spiritually or whatever else. I do believe that with ours, because it's seen as more of an aggressor type, because it's mostly based around some type of weaponry of any kind, but you notice that like most, not all at all in any way, shape, or form, but a good majority of heathens and or people that have that discipline are disciplined in it and practice it daily. This is like my family with hunting. Y'all, they're redneck as shit. Like they know their crap. When I went into the military, I could already disassemble, reassemble in under a minute. Like it was done. There wasn't even a question on my mind. Like we'd file down each other's firing pins just for funsies, but like we knew our shit. And it's something that's like, if you have this in your house or around you, you're doing yourself a disservice and your family by not learning how to properly wield, use, or enact with this item, whether it's a weapon or whatever else, which we just call knives tools because, whatever. But I think it's a good part.
So, the Lee Hollander version stands at 38, and it's generally going to be stands at 38 for every translation of the Havamal. But for this one, you have from his weapons away, no one should ever stir one step on the field, for no one knows when need might have on a sudden a man of his sword. If you don't understand Old English, I have the modern day English right here, and I will say it. Never go even a single step without a weapon at your side. You never know when you might find yourself in need of a spear.
So, in even further layman's terms, because most Americans have heard this saying, better to have it and not need it than to need it and not.
But let's pick up a good aspect. This isn't just like this particular concept is a lot deeper than having a knife or having a gun. Imagine, as a disciplinary job, you're an attorney and you go into a courtroom. Are you going in armed with the knowledge to combat a foe that has the same? Or do you literally have like a gat on your fucking side? Because that ain't going to happen, right? So technically you're unarmed, but you're armed with the knowledge that someone's there to protect, you're there to do this. Like, when I say that, I mean like someone's actually armed as security, whatever else, but you're going in armed, out of the house, armed with knowledge, confidence, preparation, and fortitude, knowing that what you're going to do is the best of your ability and you are willing and able to combat those that argue against you. This is a very big heathen thing in this sense that it's a requirement. If you want to be like, I'm a heathen, derp to derp, you better be ready for the flack that you walk out in that door and catch from the rest of the world. Not saying you need to combat it or beat it, but you need to be able to know and have confidence in yourself and your abilities to say, if someone comes to you and starts talking shit, one, you're not going to lose your cool, but two, you're going to know your way around it. So that to me is arming yourself with knowledge. Having that kind of practitioner sensibility of saying, oh yeah, it's a Mjolnir. And you're like, yep, it sure is. And they're like, so you like Marvel? You're like, I guess I do like Marvel as well, but that's not what it's for. And like being prepared for these conversations of like, oh, here we go. Or like if they're antagonizing you, how to work around it, to harness the have them all and know what you should or shouldn't do is from a societal norm until a certain degree. I think that passage is never leave unarmed, meaning never leave prepared to defend yourself in any aspect, not just in a battle aspect of physical altercation.
I like how you said that. It's a lot of people take the verbs and the verbiage and the stanzas literally and not how it could be applied in their everyday life. I think that's something that's not appreciated enough or thought of enough. It's like when people talk about this specific stanza, it's always stay armed. Well, for your example, a lawyer can't go armed to the extent of, carrying a weapon, because you can't carry a weapon into a courthouse because that's a federal crime. Or, if you're in prison, jail, or whatever, you're equipped to defend yourself. That's kind of where I see that specific stanza. It's defend yourself, defend your family, defend anyone that needs defending against the oppressors or the enemy. That's how I see it. And it's everything can be twisted to a way to this is horrible, but to fit your agenda. And that's where the the white supremacists and all that, they twist it to get their agenda, but in this sense, this is a positive twist, not a negative twist.
I'll be the first one to say, like, when I first exploring heathenry on my own, alone, again, no one else, I thought I was the only fucking human in Utah that believed in more than one god. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was reading everything and anything I get my hands on, right? Good, bad. I didn't know the difference. I was just absorbing information. And it took me on a really dark path, and it got me into a lot of trouble. Like, it took me from being the ability to, worship and do as I free to literally incarcerated. You don't have a choice. Here's your schedule. And you're like, well, shit. And it was through this exploration that I learned my limits, what I should do, what I shouldn't do, the cultural, societal norms, limits, the spiritual side of it. Like, it was a huge eye opener for me to see. And I don't ever recommend it. I recommend finding someone that has done this or does this regularly as a gothi or a spiritual leader to guide you down that path. Is I went deep quick because I didn't know the difference, and I was like, this must be it. This feels right. I'm going hard. And then I went too far, and it landed me in a lot of trouble. And full well deserved it. It was an awful experience for everyone involved. But for me, it was a big learning curve. Like, I wasn't prepared to take what I knew on the road, essentially. Like, I wasn't mentally mature enough or spiritually mature enough to say, I'm going to go represent my community in the best way I can. Now, I was drunk and was like, fuck you, Skull, and went nuts. So that was bad. But don't recommend it.
I think that's why most people in like our community and everything, they try to, act in a positive sense, in a friendly sense, is because we're so small that some individuals, this could be their only encounter with a Norse pagan, specifically a Norse pagan, not pagan in general. But if they get a bad taste in their mouth, they'll be like, okay, well, all Norse pagans are like this, because it's, the first impression kind of sense. And that's why, if not all of us are friendly to an extent, if you give us a reason not to be friendly.
I was also told that the people that I was with, who know my whole life up to that point, had never seen me more polite or like militaristic until I was in cuffs, in booking in jail. And they're like, he's just standing there, hands behind his back, yes sir, no sir. Well, nothing. They're like, you were the nicest I've ever seen. I'm like, yeah, I fucked up, and it's not their fault, it's my fault. So I'm just trying to be a good person at this point. Like, which at that point I couldn't have looked like a good person anyway. So whatever.
Yeah, that's fair though. I mean, and it's true, because when I went into BMT for the military, I went in already pagan. So I obviously and I was a young pagan at the time, relatively, and I went in hot-headed as shit. I am ashamed to say I'm one of those people that was like, yeah, I'll fight an MTI. That's fine. I'll fuck them up. No, don't do that. That's a terrible decision in all regards, because there are 8 of them waiting in the wings to literally destroy you if you get out of hand. But
Don, shark attack.
Yeah, shark attacks. Those are a lot different. Those aren't allowed.
They sure are funny though.
They're funny to watch. Yeah, they're not allowed to shark attack people anymore. Did you not know that? Well,
I was brought in on a cattle truck. Little expected to happen. There was still hay and manure, and they came in and blasted us if we touched them, leaving the only entrance. That was the end of our life, basically.
Oh yeah,
no.
Back in the 1600s.
Yeah, in the 1600s, yeah, we were packing our balls in our chest now. So got our ramrods and we're licking the shit and get in there, like, them motherfucking no, fuck you.
No, and I remember going into it like that, and then I quickly realized that I had to be better than that. And if I was part of a warrior culture, which Norse paganism is, and there's no discounting that, we are a warrior type culture through and through. I had to be better than to be the asshole that would try and fight that system. I had to be, because I had a point to prove. So that was a different thing. Very interesting to enter that arena with, and it stuck with me. I've risen fairly quickly through the rank structure. I've done my job. I do my job every day. I'm respectful to a fault sometimes, but however, and I will attribute this to religious knowledge and religious background. When I find ground to stand on and I'm not going to move, I don't. And that's actually gained me more respect than being a leaf in the wind, and just being pushed along. So there's a lot of different ways that plays out. And I will attribute that to Norse paganism and my Gothi path and understanding different things. But yeah, totally different side topic.
Oh,
But yeah.
can't agree with that. 100%. I'm right there with you.
It's so different being in that position. Like, and especially being the only one on a base for a little while and being totally alone, at least in Norse paganism. I know there's a lot of pagans in the military, all different walks of paganism.
Yeah.
But being only Norse paganism on a base, Norse pagan on a base can be brutal, especially, and not just military wise, but the only Norse pagan in your area, the only one that you know about, because I'll say it, the Bible Belt is a hotspot for closet pagans.
Yep.
It's rough down there.
Closet, a lot of things.
Closet pagans, man. Well, yeah, closet, a lot of different. Yeah, that's fair.
It's a lot of closets in the Bible Belt.
I mean, you said something that I wanted to just hammer home. We find our beliefs and we don't back away, and we hold our ground. We hold what we find is true. Mine is very similar to yours. When I was in the military, I had this big decision that I had to make, and I had a couple people within my section that were like, "Oh yeah, I'm right there with you," and it came down to disciplinary action, and I was the only one left. And they're like,
Yep.
Everyone congratulated me. I was like, I don't think this is right, but I don't want to risk my future. I'm like,
Nope.
in my head, it's, if I blow into the wind, what does that say to my kid? Like, that's how I see it, as it's how can they be proud of me for being a pushover? That's how I see it. It's, I don't stand up for what I believe in. I don't stand up for what I think is right. If I just, I fold, how is that a good role model? Yeah, you be a chameleon, and that's a skill in a whole aspect, but I think being sturdy enough to not move than being a chameleon is more impressive.
And I know exactly the situation you're talking about. I think we're talking about the same thing.
Si, senor. Without actually saying it.
Yeah, because that sparks a whole thing. But no, it was difficult. I actually had a fellow Norse pagan that said we were in it together all the way through. Looked each other in the eyes one night and said, "We're sticking together through this whole fucking thing, and we're never gonna break that apart. And this is what we're doing. This is where we're going." And he flaked. He went and did exactly what we said we weren't gonna do. And I'm not gonna lie, that hurt more than anything else to me. But I stuck it through, and I've actually gotten the compliments for it. I've gotten people walking up to me and saying, "I heard that you're one of the few that pushed back and held to it." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm one of those people." And they're like, "Congratulations, man. That's freaking awesome. Good work. Like, good for you. I'm glad you had the conviction to stick it through." And I will 110% attribute that to my religious path and giving me that, I'm going to say it honestly, that backbone to put myself on the line, to put everything on the line for something that I believe, which I took directly out of the Havamal, which is when you see evil, speak out against it. And I held my shit. And I have never, and I know you were in the same boat, and I have so much pride in that moment of, nope, I'm not going to bend. I'm not going to break. I'm going to hold to this, and I'm not letting go. And it was amazing to see fellow Norse pagans and just fellow service members in general with the military stick to that.
Yeah, that's my thing is fellow service members, we're polytheistic in nature, and we're never going to say Christians believe in the false god. No, they believe in their own deity, they believe in their own path, and that's amazing for them. And seeing fellow service members have the backbone when the leader of their religious community says, no, this is how it is, and they're like, no, but this is how God is saying it. Because you are the leader does not mean you are higher than God in that context. And I don't think I've ever told you this, but Sigvitor, I'm extremely proud and happy of what you've done, because in a sense you are stronger than me in that sense. And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's, I got kicked out because of I'm damaged and all this, and for my self-preservation I was kicked out. But you're still you're still serving, you're still trying to serve that commitment that you swore an oath to. And I just want to say I'm proud of you for that, because
Thanks,
you're stronger than damn near 99.9% of the population.
That includes me, man. I got fucked up and was still offered to stay in, and I took the out. Honestly, it was. This is gonna sound like 1,000 still. That was before your guys' time. Fuck you. But like,
well, it was.
It really was. Like, I did not deal with the shit you guys deal with now, but I deal with other shit as well. It was way more physical then. But I was hurt to the degree where I couldn't do the job that I was trained to do, right? And they even said, hey, like, we'll keep you in. We're going to change your job description, which is an MOS in the Army. And I'm like, okay, what job? And they mentioned the job, and I said, I will take that medical leave and goodbye, sir. Because it sounded like pure hell to me. But it was the fact that I could have stuck in it. It would have been a different experience, different job titles, different experience or training. But you stuck with it regardless of your problems. Like, you deal with a lot more shit than I had to deal with politically, and I dealt with a lot of physical shit. But like, it was nothing one or the other. But you're still in it. You're still going. And as much as you say one way or the other, I mean, it's providing for your family, for yourself, and it's making the life. So it's pretty cool. It is. I really respect the shit of it. A couple of our students are still in too, and I don't know what the fuck y'all are still in, but I respect the hell out of it.
So I will say this: thank you guys for that. I genuinely appreciate that a lot, that support in that way. And I just want to give a shout out to all the other guys, all the other Norse pagans, all the other people that stick to their fucking guns in our armed services here in the US and around the world. I don't care where you're at. Props to you for sticking to your shit and having a backbone in today's world. Good work. I'm in the same boat, man. I am right there with you. I am trying my best to stay afloat and keep this thing moving. But holy hell, some people have been through the ringer over the last few years, and I am genuinely proud to call y'all brothers and friends and brothers and sisters in arms and all that. Hoorah, bullshit. It's fucking awesome, and I love you guys. But I genuinely appreciate you guys saying that. That means a lot to me, because that shit was rough for a couple of years, and now luckily it's leveled out. I'm still getting out. Deuces military. Love you guys, but my contract's ending, and I'm not doing it again. So
yeah, that's out of us three, you're the only one that is serving their full commitment. And that's not to say anyone that got out via medical, via disable or disability or anything like that. Like, I want to say it was like episode 2 or whatever, where I talked about my horrific time in the military and my scars that I'm still dealing with. That's something that the individual has to think about, and I want to leave that as a positive note. instead of going down dark, because we're nearing the end. And I want to say this is the perfect time and the appropriate time to say skull.
I
Look at
can
the right. Dude.
Yeah?
Skull.
Skull.
go. The brothers and sisters in arms until Ragnarok comes and takes us all. Hail to y'all.
And on that note, we appreciate you guys being with us for this extended period of time. And we can't wait to see you in the future, whether it's at the physical location of New Uppsala or we service you in some other way. As okay, keep it PG wherever your mind's going. We're Gothar, we're not sex workers. And we're here for y'all in every capacity religiously. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes.